Hello, my name is Karen Hughes, and I am the Domestic Violence Clinical Services Coordinator for the Life Crisis Center. I want to welcome you to the Life Crisis Today. Mental health and mental health issues have been in the news lately, especially because of the pandemic. And even before the pandemic, 1 in 5 adults could be diagnosed with a mental health diagnosis. And sometime in their life, 50% of adults are going to get a diagnosis of a mental health issue. So we're going to be talking about how can we put a toolkit together to help to lessen the issues of mental health and mental health crisis and mental health issues for people. And I have with me today is Michelle Gerlitzki, and she's our Outreach Coordinator. Welcome, Michelle.
Thank you.
Now, the Life Crisis Center really deals with a tough topic. We deal with issues of abuse and trauma, and that, oh my gosh, the mental health issues that can come from that is huge. And usually when people think of trauma or mental health and a mental health crisis, they think of the big traumas, abuse or catastrophic events or terrorism, big things. Mm-hmm. But there are also the little, I call them, that's the big T. Now for the little T, like losing your job or the financial stress or more arguments because of things that are happening in their life. So we're going to be talking about that. What tips or what ideas do you have for helping people in adapting after a trauma?
Well, I think that, first of all, it's important to recognize that there are various levels of trauma, like you said in your examples, but also that we are individuals and we process trauma differently and individualistically. It's not cookie cutter. So some tips for healing would be, just processing your thoughts, being aware of where you're at, being able to say, okay, well, maybe I haven't gone through a hurricane and what that entails, but I have lost my job, and that's a big deal. And so, just being aware of the reality in that and not avoiding it, because a lot of us tend to use a coping skill of avoidance and then we get nowhere and we kind of spin our wheels. So it's important to use a tip for healing regarding just facing the reality, but also, connecting with people. We're humans and we naturally need to connect. Excuse me. And so you mentioned the pandemic. We've been told to social distance. We've been told we can't go here or there, and that goes against what's natural to us. So tips for healing are being able to have a support network and, connect with people, and now we're starting to be able to do that more again. Also, just not comparing your experience with others. Like I mentioned in the beginning that, we're individuals and we each manage things differently. We have strengths and weaknesses that are different. So just not comparing to other people's way of managing trauma, making sure that you take care of your body, getting back to the basics of, what you ingest. They say what you are, what you eat. Yeah, I believe that's true. And so, it affects our brain, it affects our hormones, it affects our mental health. Exercising, whether it's just a 5-minute stretch in the morning, is proven to help with mental health. Being able to, have the knowledge that healing from mental health trauma takes time. It's not linear. It will go forward and sometimes take 2 steps back, and that does not mean you failed in your mental health healing. It means you keep moving forward and be proud of that process and recognizing that. And giving yourself grace ties into that not being a linear healing process. Okay, I woke up on the wrong side of the bed, but let me get back on the bed and roll over and come back out again. Giving yourself grace and being able to ask questions and ask, others for help, I think are a lot of good tips for mental health healing.
I know when I get stressed out, I get stuck in my head and things go round and round and round. What tips do you have for getting out of that thinking?
Okay.
Yeah.
Just, a lot of us will get into what are called thinking traps, where we may have different cognitive distortions, which means thinking unrealistically, basically. You know, there's a difference between what we think and feel sometimes than what is reality. Our feelings and thoughts are legitimate and worthwhile, but they don't always equal reality. So, you know, getting out of those thinking traps of those cognitive distortions is, you know, for example, overgeneralizing, you know, saying something like a broad statement instead of being able to pay attention to the detail and being mindful of what the present situation is, would be an example. Or personalizing something that's not about you and blaming yourself for that would be a cognitive distortion or unrealistic. You know, all or nothing thinking, I'm never going to be able to do this. I'm never going to be able to get out of this. That's not realistic. Being able to not jump to conclusions is another cognitive distortion that can be very debilitating as far as a healing process with mental health. Should statements that make you feel guilty, I should have done this, I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, I call that getting into the shoulds.
Yes, don't go. No. Don't go there. And then, you know, there's tips for challenging those thoughts, and that's just, you know, like I mentioned earlier, mindfulness, you know, deep breathing, getting yourself back into where you are right now, reframing. I like to use a lot, which means just changing the words that you've got in your mind from negative to positive. Like not saying I shouldn't have, or going to, well, maybe next time I will be able to
do whatever.
Yeah. And, you know, proving yourself wrong. You know, some people get down on themselves because they don't have knowledge to you know, reach out or where to go for mental health. But they could, you know, be able to say, well, I have a friend who has a friend who works on a hotline, and being able to say, oh, I do know things. If I think about it, if I sit still and just calm down, I'm able to kind of prove myself wrong, that I do know things that I can help myself with by reaching out. I think those are important ways to kind of get out of those traps and cognitive distortions.
We also have to kind of accept reality.
Yes.
Right? What are some tips for accepting reality?
Okay. Just, you know, very simple, noticing when you're going against reality. It kind of goes back into your negative thought process that you might get into every now and then. Sitting still, taking a deep breath, and being able to notice that, oh, well, yeah, I am kind of feeling a little bitter. So maybe I'm not being realistic. Maybe I need to check myself. Reminding yourself that you can't change things that have already occurred. Being able to embrace your feelings of bitterness or anger or whatever it is that you're being challenged with, just embracing it is kind of getting back to reality. It brings you back to grounding. Even, you know, exercising, practicing reality checks. Because if we practice, we get better and better. We get more comfortable with whatever it is we're practicing. If we practice reality, you know, and learning about it, we get more comfortable with it, even if it's not the most pleasant. Being able to relax your body. I've mentioned deep breathing. You know, stretching. Using stress balls to kind of create tension and release, those kind of things, and just coping statements, you know, positive affirmations. What have I done right? Writing a list of your own positive statements that maybe you need to put on a sticky note on every piece of appliance or furniture in your house if you need to, until you practice that reality. Those kind of things I think are important.
So you've given some tips already, but I bet you there's some more tips on how to take care of yourself.
Taking time for yourself.
Yes.
Foreign concept for a lot of us, I think.
Yeah.
And should not be.
Yeah, we put everybody else first before us.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, it kind of always puts me back to the image of being on an airplane and the oxygen masks. They say, you know, put yours on first or you can't help others. And that's this. Taking time for yourself and tips for doing that. They are a necessary first aid for us in mental health. So accepting yourself as you are. You know, we're always trying to do better and do better. That's, you know, what is in our nature a lot of times, or in how we've grown up. But accepting who you are and who you're becoming, because that's also a process, is key about, you know, taking care of yourself. Focusing on the basics, you know, making sure that you take time to take a hot bath or a shower. Making sure that you have something to eat. You know, some people forget to eat. You can't function that way. That's not taking care of yourself. That's the opposite. Finding what makes you happy. What is your happy place, a lot of people say. For me, it's the beach. You know, finding that favorite herbal tea or, you know, doing things that are happy and grow your soul. Practicing mindfulness, I mentioned this earlier, that's just about kind of getting grounded in the present moment, taking deep breaths, getting yourself back to the present, getting out of those negative thoughts or not facing reality. That's all part of taking care of yourself as well. And making small goals, not unrealistic goals, not grandiose goals, making little baby step goals. We tend to create lists for ourselves. I'm guilty. And I grow in this, you know, making sure that I make small goals. And I think that's important for our daily mental health and taking care of ourselves as well.
Sometimes people feel so overwhelmed that they have so much on their plate. They don't know where to even start. So are there some questions people can ask themselves so that they can prioritize in their self-care?
Yes, there's all sorts of tools to do that. I think that one way that is positive is prioritizing self-care through worksheets. There's worksheets available online on various mental health websites, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But I have a worksheet here actually that breaks it all down in a nice way. For example, what are some things that would make you feel better but you cannot seem to do? Seem being keyword. Getting back to that reality, you know, reality is that you could do some things, like, for example, have coffee with a friend. Take a walk on the beach. Or if you can't get to these places, walk around on your street. Take a walk in a local park nearby within walking distance. And then it breaks down into thoughts. For example, I don't have time. I don't have time. I don't have time. One of my examples I put is, I should get this done. I mentioned the shoulds earlier. That's something, you know, you want to kind of steer away from. You know, and then it talks about expectations. So it's a worksheet that kind of breaks down those negative thoughts that you might have that aren't reality and putting them to shifting into positive, realistic self-care goals, thoughts or expectations, and writing down, you know, the old thought or expectation and then a new thought or expectation that's more realistic, and that goes back to the reframing that we talked about.
I know when I work with clients and we're doing stress management, I said you can do anything for 15 minutes. It doesn't take long. And we also have techniques. Yes, you can do the thinking stuff because we get stuck in our heads, but there are also other techniques. And I know with my clients, I do something I call the 5 senses, because we have our 5 senses with us all the time. So I'm going to go over with you, if you don't mind, how I use these 5 senses. Now, the very first thing I always tell clients is rate your stress. What is it like? 0 is no stress and 10 is the worst. Where are you right now? because you always want to know, am I getting any better, or am I lessening my stress? If I do this technique, how will I know when I'm done? So if you're at 7 or 8 now, where do you want to be? Where do you feel like you can handle? You may not get to a 0, but can you come down to a 5? Can you get down to a 4? What number do you want to get down to that you feel like, oh, okay, I can handle life now? So first, rate yourself. And then I'd say, now use your 5 senses. So we're just going to start with our eyes. Now, this technique you can't do if you have a seizure disorder. Okay, so I always warn people about that, so don't do this one. But with your eyes, you can find a spot either on a piece of paper, the corners of the top of a piece of paper. You can find a picture on the wall, something that's like eyeball width away from you, and you just are going to look back and forth. And if your clock ticks, that's how fast. Because if you do too fast, you're going to get dizzy.
Right.
And if you're doing
Makes
too
sense.
slow,
You might fall asleep.
yes, or you get lost in your thoughts again. So, and just do it, and you'll know when you're done. Because I usually say do it for about 30 seconds, but you can't watch a clock and do the technique at the same time. So you'll know your body. And if you take a little bit of a breath and you feel the release, that's when you know you're done.
Okay.
And sometimes it's 20 seconds, sometimes it's 40 seconds, sometimes it's a whole minute. It's usually not that long, that you just back and forth, left, right, left, right, left, right, that you're looking. So that's your eyes. How easy is that one?
Could do that multiple times a day.
Easy. I don't recommend doing it while you're driving, but that's, that's about it. So eyes, nose. We can do things with just smelling things. You talked about breathing. Yes, just going. And I don't know about your gym teacher, but I still hear my gym teacher go, ladies, in through your nose and out through your mouth. And yes, we need that for our lungs to expand and get the air that we need. And I find just one breath, if I'm tensing my muscles in my neck or something, my neck will go,
Relief.
I get relief. And then I feel like I can handle whatever I'm stressed over.
Right.
Also, you can use things that you can smell. I know aromatherapy is like huge right now. A lot of people use that. And there are times when I'm stressed and I'm like so anxious and up all this energy, and I want to bring my energy down.
Right.
Or I'm so stressed out and I have no energy, I want to bring my energy up. So there are different oils for each. So those that are calming are like lavender or chamomile. Well, you know, the reason people like chamomile tea when they're stressed. Even the smell of that is enough to help. Clary sage, especially for women, that one's really good for our hormones. So that can really calm us down. Now, if we need energy, any of the citrus oils, you know, any lemon, orange, bergamot, doesn't matter what the citrus one is. Find the one that you like. Find the one you like, yeah. Another one is peppermint. Peppermint, I know for me, if you come in about 3 in the afternoon and you smell peppermint in my office, it might be because I need something to rub me up. But yeah, peppermint's really good for your nose and good for stress. Your ears, I don't know about you, but I can put on some music, you know?
Yes.
Find what I like and just chill out with it. Or I call it the kitchen dancing music, that you kind of dance around your music in the kitchen. Dance, do it. So that can help you with just feeling like, okay, I'm not so much in my head because I'm enjoying this music. But they also write music that's for stress. Okay. In our brains, we have brain waves that kind of, if you looked and they mapped it out, it would be going up and down. Right now, we're in alpha waves because we're alert and we're talking to each other. Now, when we're really in the REM sleep, that's called theta waves. But if you really want to be kind of half alert, half asleep, and de-stressing yourself, delta waves. And if you search the internet, there's all kinds of music that's written in the delta waves that you can actually get for stress management. So put that on. You can even close your eyes, and you will get to that point where you're getting your brain into those waves. So you can use music as a way for de-stressing.
Nice.
Mouth. Oh my gosh. Chocolate. I don't know about you, but I love chocolate.
Love dark chocolate.
The darker the better. The flavonoids in the dark chocolate, there are studies that chocolate is good for us, which I love, yay. But we can also use other things. Green tea has L-theanine in it. Warm milk or turkey have tryptophan. So you can do things that will help you. You talked about eating, things that can help us by eating. And I don't know about you, but I probably would go towards the chocolate. But even with chocolate, if you chomp on it, you're not going to get as much out of it. But if you put it in your mouth and you savor, you're actually doing two things. One is you're getting the flavonoids, which is helping with the stress. But you're also getting that moment where you're savoring and you're calming your thoughts and you're just enjoying for a brief second, and then you feel like you can move on with your life and take care of your stress. What else have I lost? Tapping or touch. You mentioned the stress balls.
Yes.
There's a reason stress balls work. Our hands, our ears, and our feet have our whole body represented. And so when you're squeezing that stress ball, you are actually stimulating your entire body. And it actually, if there's stress in there, you're going to get it going, okay, all right, I'm relaxed.
Work it out.
Work it out, right. And you don't have to do a workout to do it, although working out is really good too. And that one can get the muscles going. But you're working out those knots that are already there just by squeezing the squeeze ball. And there's another thing that you can do. The reason people wring their hands when they're stressed is because they're trying to get to a certain spot that will release endorphins. And it's right here on the thumb. I don't know if you can see my tendon. There's a tendon in there. You put your one thumb here and the finger on this side, and you do little circles. Now, if you squeeze too hard and it hurts, that means you're stressed. So loosen up a little bit and just go a little bit, and then you can get deeper and deeper and deeper as you get more and more relaxed. So, eyes, ears, nose, throat, nose, touch, you've got it. And they're with you all the time. So they're just some easy techniques. I love having techniques that I can use, and I don't have to go get something, except for the stress ball. I really don't have to go get something to be able to de-stress.
Natural toolkit.
Natural toolkit, yeah. So we've been giving techniques, we've given things for your toolkit. Are there any fun facts or statistics about this mental health toolkit that you can share?
Well, some things that I would like to share is, and I'm going to read them to you to make sure they're accurate. Because some of them are regarding COVID. Okay. So that's newer to us. Right. COVID-19 has had a profound impact on mental health. We all know that. It's critical to normalize mental health care to heal from long-lasting impacts of this pandemic. I think it's just important to emphasize that statement as simple as it may seem, because we're here to talk about mental health and toolkits and how to manage it. And we have another whole realm thrown into our lives, and that's this pandemic. So just wanted to mention that living a healthy lifestyle and incorporating these tools for mental health, it's important to recognize that it's not always easy. We've shared today some very easy, natural, low maintenance, so to speak, sort of ways to lift our mental health. But sometimes it's not easy, but we want people to know that it is significant and can be achieved gradually by making these small changes with our senses, for example. And there are practical tools that everyone can use to improve their mental health and increase resiliency, regardless of whatever situation they're dealing with or are in. There's always an option. I think it's important to emphasize there's always an option. We tend to have that unrealistic thinking, and we need to use little steps to get out of that to know there's always an option for increased and improved mental health. Just making sure that people are aware that anger and frustration, they complicate things. They just do. When we react emotionally, we don't usually get somewhere that we want to be. So making sure that we just talk a little bit about that. Disappointment, fear, stress, all of these things kind of can get in our way. It's important to take steps to decrease that overall unrealistic thinking and tension using your senses and preventing yourself from spiraling, even just based on your feelings, which your feelings, are significant, but how you react to them is even more significant, and getting yourself out of a situation where you don't want to be and improving your mental health. So
yeah, we kind of get, as I said probably a little while ago, that we get stuck in our heads.
Yes.
So it feels like we have to make a checkup from the head up.
Checkup from the neck up.
From the neck up, yeah. So resources, do you have checkup from the neck up? What would you say?
I'm just going to list a website that I think people should go to, because this is a website where it has numerous resources for mental health toolkits, and free assessments. So there's all different categories: depression, anxiety, all sorts of categories that you can take a free little test with yourself in your own privacy, and kind of see where you are. Right. So then you can take steps further for improved mental health. And it's MHAscreening.org. MHAscreening.org. Right. Mental Health America.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to use that tool to do your checkup from the neck up.
Checkup from the neck up. I like that. But there are other resources. What other resources would you say?
Okay, so with that same organization, they share hashtags that people can look up. So there's hashtag tools, #2, thrive, tools to thrive. There's hashtag mental health month, hashtag MHM, which is Mental Health Month 2021. Those are hashtags people can look up and find resources for mental health toolkits. Okay. And then there's also links that people can look up on their own time as well, which is www.mhascreening.org, like mentioned before, where you can do the screenings in your own home if you want, private, free, and kind of see where you are before you take any further steps, such as reaching out to a professional if you choose. Another link would be www.mhanational.org/May. Because typically Mental Health Month is celebrated in May. Okay, great resources, great information. Thank you. I want to thank you, Michelle. We've gone over a lot of stuff today. Yes. And I'm hoping that people can put together their toolkit and keep their mental health in a better place. We all are affected by everything that's going on right now. Definitely. And we need to stay on top of it so it stays more in the acute stage rather than becoming a long-term problem. For sure. And so I think if people do it just like we do our health, we take care of things with our health pretty quickly, we need to take care of our mental health as well. I agree. So thank you. You're welcome. Thanks for having me. And I want to thank you for joining us. We've gone over a lot of information, and we also have one more resource, the Life Crisis Center. We have a hotline, and that number is 410-749-HELP. Again, the number is 410-749-4357. We're also part of the Maryland 211, so you can call 211. We have a text to chat. If you're not one of those people that want to talk to people but you want to chat, you can do that too. That is 898-211. You do have to put in your zip code for that. We have a website, www.lifecrisiscenter.org, where also you can find us on Facebook, on Instagram. There's lots of places to reach. Make sure that you do reach out, that if you are struggling, there are resources for you. Please use them. I also want to thank PAC 14 for making this show available, and join us again another time. Thank you.